This war didn't begin here. It began with missiles, politics, and nuclear fears. But that's not what made the world nervous. What made the world nervous was this question: do you really want to sail through there? And suddenly, the most important waterway on Earth became the most dangerous one. No official closure, no big announcement, just fear. And fear is cheaper than missiles. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Small, narrow, looks harmless. But here's the problem. The world built its entire system around this one gap. About 1 in 5 barrels of oil passes through here. So if this place gets nervous, the whole world starts sweating. Iran didn't close Hormuz. That would trigger a full war. Instead, it did something smarter. It made Hormuz maybe dangerous. Missiles nearby, drones flying, ships suddenly having very bad luck. Iran also hinted it may have placed some sea mines in the water. But here's the problem. The strait is about 30 to 50 kilometers wide, and the shipping lanes themselves are already a few kilometers across. A small number of mines? In that much water? That's like throwing a few nails on a highway. Maybe dangerous, but not a real blockade. And yet, you don't need many, because even one explosion would shock the world. Oil prices jump, shipping stops. So most oil tanker companies look at this and say, "No thanks, we wait." They slow down, they delay, they stay outside the strait. But not everyone can wait. Some ships still go through, and those ships, they move carefully, sometimes at night, sometimes with tracking turned off, trying not to be seen as a target. Iran doesn't need a full blockade. It just needs enough fear to make everyone behave differently. So Donald Trump looks at this and says, "All right, team effort," he calls, "Europe, Japan, South Korea, China. Come, escort the ships." And everyone pauses, because escorting ships sounds simple, until you realize you're not escorting ships, you're volunteering to be the next target. At first, nobody rushes in. Some don't even hesitate. They just say, no. Germany leads the way. Its defense minister Boris Pistorius puts it bluntly, "This is not our war. We have not started it." Then he adds something even sharper. What does Trump expect? That a handful of European ships can do what the powerful US Navy cannot? And that sets the tone. The UK doesn't say no directly, but it makes something very clear. The level of threat is such, few nations are willing to send warships. France is even more direct. President Emmanuel Macron says, "We are not a party to the conflict. France will never take part in the current context." And maybe later, once the situation is calmer, Japan says, "No plan to send escort missions, for now." Australia says, "We're considering options," which usually means also no. And then there's China. China doesn't say yes. China doesn't say no. China says, "We are in communication with all sides," which sounds important, but means nothing. Because this time, the problem is different. If China joins the US, it looks like betraying Iran. If China refuses, it looks like protecting Iran. And Trump knows that. He didn't just ask for help. He forced China to choose. So China chooses not to choose. And quietly, its ships keep moving, sometimes even safer than others. So Trump looks at all this, and he is not happy, because from his point of view, this makes no sense. So he says it clearly. It's only appropriate that people who are the beneficiaries help. In other words, if you use the oil, you protect the route. Then he pushes even harder. I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory. But the answers don't change. So his tone changes. We helped with Ukraine, and they don't help with Iran. Then he goes further. We spend a lot of money on NATO to protect you. And now? We will protect them, but they will do nothing for us in a time of need. And that's the frustration. Because to Trump, this is not just about Hormuz. This is about fairness. For decades, America paid for the system, protected the system. And now, when that system is under pressure, no one shows up. Not even with something small. You would have thought they would say, we'd send a couple of minesweepers. But Europe has its own answer. NATO is a defensive alliance. It shows up when someone is attacked, not when someone starts a fight. And in this case, no NATO country was attacked. So from their point of view, this is not their job. And that's where the gap appears, between how the US sees the world and how its allies do. Then reality hits. Not politics, not speeches, reality. Ships slow down, insurance explodes, routes break, and suddenly, everyone remembers this isn't about principles, it's about money. So the same countries that said, no, this is not our war, now say, we must protect global trade. Same situation, different excuse. Because in geopolitics, you don't change your position, you change your story. A joint statement appears. The UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, all speaking together about stability, security, coordination. Big words, carefully chosen, because none of them want to say the real reason. Doing nothing is starting to hurt, and there's another fear. What if the US remembers this? What if next time Europe needs help, and the answer is no? Because this time, they were the ones who said it first. Now Japan. Japan is different. For decades, it avoided military action, not because it couldn't, but because it chose not to. Now, it has a reason. Energy. If Hormuz slows, Japan slows. And suddenly, sending forces overseas doesn't sound aggressive. It sounds necessary. China watches closely, but says very little. Because stopping Japan means stepping into the same trap. Take a side, or stay out. So China stays quiet. Japan moves forward, and both pretend nothing has changed. Now look at the region. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. At first, they try to stay quiet. But then, they start getting hit. Energy facilities, gas plants, oil infrastructure, and suddenly, neutrality becomes expensive. So, something unusual happens. A meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, Qatar, UAE, and then unexpected names, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, all saying the same thing. Iran needs to stop. Because when missiles start landing, everyone suddenly agrees. And just like that, Iran's problem changes. It's no longer just fighting enemies, it's losing neighbors. Iran isn't hitting random targets. It's hitting what's inside them. US bases, troops, logistics. Because hitting America directly means full war. But hitting America through others? That's pressure. Message: if you host my enemy, you are part of the war. And once fear spreads, no place feels safe anymore. Then the focus shifts. Kharg Island, a small island, handling about 90% of Iran's oil exports. If Hormuz is the gate, Kharg is the source. The US strikes the system around it, not the oil. Because destroying oil breaks the global market. But threatening it? That's power. And then, U.S. Marines move from Okinawa, about 5,000 troops. This is not defense. This is an option, because Marines don't defend. They land. And suddenly the question becomes not, will the U.S. strike? But, will the U.S. take? Taking Kharg is easy. Holding it is the problem. Iran doesn't need to take it back, it just needs to destroy it. Fire, missiles, drones, and everything burns. Then the war spreads beyond governments, Exxon, Chevron, operating nearby, inside missile range, pipelines, refineries, gas plants, all vulnerable. And once oil starts burning, everyone pays. In the end, it comes back to Hormuz, not closed, controlled. Japan's ships pass, others wait, or turn back. And then the rumor spreads, $2 million for safe passage. No one confirms it. No one needs to, because now everyone understands. This war isn't ending. It's just being priced. Every barrel, every ship, every risk.
Thank you for watching Pastcast, where the past echoes through today. If you enjoyed the satire, scrolls, and scandals, like, subscribe, and ring the bell before the next empire falls.